and about the sustainable. Ladies and gentlemen,
No, that's sending because we're hearing.
Expectation for what is relative. Your place, what is probably fine. Because of these two systems, you faced numerous problems. You have handled on every year Facebook, newspapers, digital, world. non-related. These are kind of non-related validation for paper. One, and it was high forward in population and the commencement of validation. A big part of this public it's what we try to prevent. The big target at the Symposium in 2011 after the failure of blood organization that is based on voluntary failure which was system for informing about blood donation. Reached out to schools and organizations. Started a blood voluntary non-related blood donation. Once they give blood, no blood. Yeah. Barrier done most of gain from it. Afterwards, so much so that the Ministry of Health voluntary non-related started campaign in 2018 and how to like COVID and getting so we're going to aim for voluntary non-related validation.
I need to bring up.
Thank you, Dr. Chan. Next on the agenda, we have the University of the West Indies address by Professor Vidyadhar Shah.
Yeah.
Professor Vidyadhar Shah is the director of the Center for Medical Sciences Education in the Faculty of Medical Sciences at the University of Alaska. He has held this position for a decade and has also been Deputy Dean for Quality Assurance Accreditation. He joined the University of the West Indies in the Boston campus in 2008 when he left Addis Ababa University in Ethiopia as an assistant professor. He earned his bachelor with honors in education from Sambalpur University, Odisha, India, as well as a master's in arts and film and a PhD, all from Kurukshetra University, Haryana in India. He is an educationist and a researcher. He has attracted several intramural and extramural research grants as principal investigator and co-investigator. He has served as an independent external examiner for more than 25 PhD accreditation institutes. More than 25 PhD theses so far. He serves as an external peer evaluator for STIC International Quality Assurance and Accreditation Agency. Professor Starr holds membership in many professional organizations and is a founding member of the International Forum of Researchers in Education. He is on the editorial board of the BMC Research Note, a Springer Nature publication, West Indian Medical Journal, Advances in Human Biology, and official journal of the All India Association of Educational Research. In aggregate, more than 125 papers in medical education. Together, PopStar has published research papers, developed policy papers, and presented posters and papers in conferences. We now welcome to the podium Professor Starr.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister of Health, Mr. Singh. Medical fraternity and distinguished guests and presenters, members of media, public, and more importantly, our voluntary, non-remunerated blood donors. A very good morning to all. I extend you warm greetings and best on behalf of the University of the West Indies, Dean, Faculty of Medical Sciences, Professor Terence Mangal, to this timely National Symposium on Voluntary Non-Remunerated Blood Donations organized by the Trinidad and Tobago Society for Hematology and Blood Transfusion in collaboration with the Ministry of medical faculties to direct their education, research, and service activities towards addressing the priority health concerns of the community, region, and the nation they have a mandate to serve. This immediately implies that our faculty has a responsibility to the development of the medical sciences within the society through fostering competence for research and improvement. And this we have done since the inception for all of our graduates to our year 2 undergraduate research. I will say that every year Dr. Charles and many others of our staff have loyally served this faculty by always taking a group of year 2 research students to educate in research. These future doctors, nurse, dentist, vets, optometry, and pharmacists then go out to serve the needs of the society using the knowledge and professional competence so they can. I assure you that this duty of the society is one which we take very seriously, and it is epitomized through the work of Dr. Charles and the people like him in noble aspiration we see here today. Thus, we feel here we fulfill the above stated mandate. The University of West Indies Faculty of Medical Science wholeheartedly supports the initiative of the TTSHBT and Ministry of Health. Indeed, donating blood is about ensuring the right to life. The Constitution of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago 1976, amended in 2007, under Section 4A, guarantees the rights of the individual to life, liberty, and security of the person and enjoyment of property, and rights not to be deprived of except by due process. Since 1975, the World Health Assembly highlighted the global need for blood safety and availability for the adoption of several resolutions that have given greater priority to the issues within the global and national health agendas. Out of the 118.5 million blood donations collected globally, 40% of these are collected in high-income countries, home to only 16% of the world population. In low-income countries, up to 54% of blood transfusions are given to children under the age of 5 years of age. Whereas in high-income countries, the most frequently transfused patient group is over 60 years of age, accounting for up to 76% of all transfusion. Based on the sample of 1,000 population, the blood donation rate is 31.5 donations in high-income countries, 16.4 donations in upper middle-income countries, 6.6 donations in the lower middle-income countries, and just 5.0 donations in low-income countries. So when you talk about blood donations, blood is a vital healthcare resource used in a broad range of clinical services. Blood transfusion is an indispensable component of healthcare. It contributes to saving millions of lives each year in both routine and emergency situations, permits increasingly complex medical and surgical interventions, and dramatically improves the life expectancy and quality of life of patients with a variety of acute and chronic conditions. So for the education of our public, those who have kindly participated in this symposium, I would like to mention here millions of people owe their life, people whom they will never know and meet in their lifetime. They are none other than those who have donated their blood freely without any reward, that is voluntary, non-remunerated blood donors. Voluntary unpaid donors are the foundations of the safe blood supply, which save millions of human beings from the jaws of untimely death. We need to extend a hearty appreciation to these unsung heroes who give the precious gift of life to mankind. Nothing is comparable to the preciousness of human blood. In spite of the rapid and remarkable conquest of medical sciences today, there is no laboratory that manufactures blood. It is only in human beings that human blood is made and circulated. For those who require blood, saving their lives, sharing from other fellows is the only means. Hence, the donations, I should say rather, voluntary, non-remunerated donation is the only way of accumulating blood and safe storage to meet the emergency requirement for saving life. So there are so many factors that actually repels our public, like suppose fear of needing, fear of pain, fear of sight of blood, fear of future weakness, fear of possible ill effects, objection from elders, ignorance and illiteracy are all reasons for many people who are hesitant in donating blood. And all these myths and misconceptions are to be removed in order that adequate amount of bloods are made available at blood bank for saving the lives of our patients. And this symposium is a step in the right direction to educate the population. Blood collected from the voluntary donors is stored at blood bank, and it will be readily made available to needy patients on replacement basis. All units of blood collected are tested for malaria, hepatitis B, BDLR, HIV. So voluntary donated blood is screened for potential life-threatening infection like HIV and everything. Hence, blood recipients have nothing to worry and regular donors can maintain their safe status. Formerly, before what it used to happen, selling and buying blood for selling and buying of this light fluid was common. Blood sellers do this trade for want of money as they are usually poor. They suffer from various ailments. They may be drug addicts, alcoholics, even the carriers of blood transfusion disease. So, voluntarily donated blood from healthy and social-minded individuals is considered the safest blood for transfusion. So, dear friends, let me share with some of the basic facts about blood donation. There are 4 main blood groups: O, A, B, and AB. Group O is the most common and therefore the most in demand. The average amount of blood present in an adult is 4 to 5 liters, or about 8% of the body weight. Life cycles of different components are short. The red blood cell lives about 120 days, while white blood cells last about 3 to 9 days in our circulations. New blood cells are constantly generated in the body. A person can donate blood 168 times as he or she ages from 18 to 16 years of age. Sorry, 18 to 60. The quantity of blood present in 1 kg of body weight is about 76 milliliter for males and 66 milliliter for females. Out of this 8 ml kg per body weight is donatable. Males can donate every 3 months, while females for every 4 months. All donated blood is recuperated within the 21 days. At one time, only 350 ml will be taken from a donor in not more than 20 minutes time including the time for rest and refreshment. A blood donor has to meet the certain criteria such as age, body weight, pulse rate, blood pressures, and so many other medical criteria. So the fundamental strategy to ensure timely access to safe and sufficient supplies of blood and blood product is the development of a nationally coordinated blood transfusion service on voluntarily non-remunerated blood transfusions. This service should be governed by quality management in all aspects and have sufficient and continuous funding and be fully integrated into the national health system. The work of the National Blood Bank is admirable in these directions. The faculty is glad to be a part of this symposium. This will also further the university AAA strategy, particularly alignment, where we aim for efficient and effective alignment with the societal critical health needs of the country and the region. With the said piece of information, I request you all to donate blood more often. It can save many lives. Blood donations is our responsibility towards the society. Also note, every June 14th is observed as International Blood Donors Day. Once again, I wish you all the best for an impactful symposium. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Prince. Next on the agenda, we have an international speaker, Professor David Roberts. He's going to speak to us on NHS blood and transplant a UK address. Professor David Roberts is Medical Director for Pathology in the National Health Service Blood and Transplant, which is essentially the blood service for England. He is Professor of Hematology at the University of Oxford. We now welcome to the online forum, Professor Roberts. Thank you so much.
Hi, good morning. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, you can, Professor Roberts.
Okay, and you can see the pictures. Let me just share my screen then, and we'll go to full presentation. Right, well, it really is a huge pleasure to speak to you today. And I really must thank Dr. Kenneth Charles for inviting me. I have visited Trinidad once, many years ago, before I went to university, when I worked on one of those ships that from Harrison Line, and we stopped at Port of Spain for a few days. But I'm sorry not to be here today, and very much hope to come and visit soon. So I'm going to tell you about blood donation and the power of voluntary non-remunerated donation, and the long journey we've taken here in the UK to develop a fully comprehensive healthcare system. It's a journey that we're all on together, and I hope what I say today as I explore how we've developed and some of the difficulties we've had will inspire and help you all. So I'm going to just touch again on the advantages of voluntary non-remunerated donation, and I apologize if some of this repeats what you've said, but I will highlight some specific points. I'll tell you what we've done in the UK over the last 100 years. And then I'd like us to think about why it's so difficult to develop these voluntary non-remunerated donation systems, but why we can encourage people to do that, both by understanding why they would like to do that and the barriers that may be in their way. And I think just at the end, reflect how we can get help for you in Trinidad and Tobago, and indeed how you can help others. So as Dr. Charles has indicated, there are more than two, but the two main health systems for giving blood are the hospital-based or family donor system, which is very prevalent throughout the world and is probably the most common system in most of the countries of the world. But it's very inconsistent, and it does not really allow for development of high quality services. There is a risk to the safety of blood because, first of all, people may not answer all the donor questions if they feel under an obligation. And also, the first time you give blood, there is greater risk of infections not being picked up. On the other hand, as we can see, if we have a voluntary non-remunerated system with a large supply of blood is available for all needs, infections are lower. And what I'm going to talk about tomorrow, but is relevant to today, is how a good supply of blood can be integrated with good medical and surgical practice and really improve patient outcomes. We've heard about how we can get good quality assurance. And of course, such a national scheme requires thinking about how this is funded, either directly or indirectly. Well, how did things start in the United Kingdom? We've heard about this man, a very humble man, Percy Lane Oliver, who had a great foresight. And he started in a very simple way by running one of the first voluntary non-remunerated blood bank from his own house in South London. So not at all official, something that was done on not just a voluntary giving blood, but a voluntary organisation basis. And he actually worked for the Red Cross, and he was phoned by a local hospital requesting an urgent blood transfusion. And he realized, when he gave blood, how difficult it was for the hospital to get blood. And he organized a panel of type donors who were available to donate on request. And he was able to phone some of them up. Others he used to send messengers round to their houses to get them to go to hospital. And one of his great innovations was that he insisted that the donors weren't paid. He ran this from his own house, and he increased the number of donors over 100-fold in those years up to the Second World War, when blood donation had to be organized on a much larger scale in London. And of course, this model was adopted widely across the world. Even over my working lifetime, blood donation services and transfusion services have developed hugely. I don't know if you can see my arrow, but this top figure shows the temporary accommodation of the transfusion services in Oxford in the 1970s and 80s. And they then moved into much better premises in the John Radcliffe Hospital, which you can you can't see it behind me, but it's one of the big buildings in Oxford. And followed a program of consolidation, first of all into a regional service and then into a national service. And you can see at the bottom here the very large production facility we have in Bristol. We have 3 centres around the country that are able to process blood. And again, I'll tell you tomorrow about the advantages of such centralisation that follows from people's confidence in a safe supply of blood. So at the moment, we collect about just over 1 million units a year. That's about 24 units per 1,000 people. And again, I'll speak about how we've been able to reduce the amount of blood we need. So the amount of blood you collect in Trinidad and Tobago is not so far off. I think it's about 2 or 3 times less than this. So it's not really so far away from the amount of blood we use in England. But we do have a very large number of donors, and it's one of the most common voluntary activities in the right across the United Kingdom. You can see a very significant proportion of the population are involved, and we have to recruit still a very large number of people a year. And a lot of thought and of activity is devoted to reaching people in all different areas of different sectors of the population. And we use every possible modality. We've started to use social media. We have written communications with donors. We're in the press, the written press. We're on the radio and television. And I think I hardly need to tell this audience how important blood donation is to facilitate so many modern treatments of emergencies, in bleeding, whether it's due to trauma or women in pregnancy or gastrointestinal bleeding from the gut. Many types of advanced surgery require large amounts of blood, and modern cancer therapy requires lots of people to be transfused because the drugs and radiotherapy suppress the bone marrow. And of particular relevance to both us in the UK and of course in the Caribbean is the need for blood to treat sickle cell disease and thalassemia, whether it's lifelong transfusion for thalassemia or top-up emergency or exchange transfusion for sickle cell. So an enormous amount of modern blood medicine is dependent on this good blood supply. Well, why don't people step forward to give blood? And I think we have to think about this carefully. I'm indebted to Lucy Asamoah in Ghana, who came up, asked lots of donors, and this is her word cloud. There are many general themes and some specific themes. I mean, people are clearly afraid and fearful of giving blood, and sometimes they lack confidence. They have specific cultural beliefs. Some of them are understandable, some are quite misguided about what harm blood can cause. But I think it's very important to take the effort to understand a good cross-section of the people, to understand what these concerns are, and so focus our educational efforts. So of course, some people think blood donation is scary. They're frightened. Particularly younger people may have quite a strong reaction to needles or the sight of blood. But there are specific cultural beliefs, and again, they vary across the world about people have spiritual or religious beliefs, cultural beliefs that losing blood is part of your life. People also may feel that blood affects their fertility or ability to have children, whether it's men or women. And again, this is a universal fear. Percy Oliver wrote about how men were particularly afraid that blood donation may affect their ability to have children. So again, it's something we have to address. Some people think blood donation can cause harm, and they may have a reduced life or even come to harm. Again, this is something we can assure people about. Some people don't want to be tested for infections, and again, it's fear of the unknown. The infections we test for can be treated or moderated, and it's important for people to be involved in those public health campaigns. Another reason for not giving blood more widely is lack of trust in the provision of blood. And clearly what we're trying to do here is to break the circle where people won't give blood because there isn't enough blood. Clearly, if everyone gave blood, we could overcome those fears. Now, the motivation for giving blood is really quite complex. And again, when we address donors, I think we have to think about why people give blood. It's not, people don't give blood for the same reasons, even amongst the voluntary non-remunerated donors. And my academic colleague, Eamon Ferguson, has really tried to understand this. And again, it would be important to understand in your communities in Trinidad what's happening. Some people give blood without any thought for others, but many people experience a positive emotional gain from helping. And this is very common. I think those of you who've given blood will think as that unit of blood is taken away, that it is actually going into someone else. And Eamon has coined this term, the warm glow that people get. And we've tried to encourage that by, for example, texting people after they've given blood where that blood's going. And so to encourage that warm glow that people feel. Now, some people give blood because they feel other people aren't doing it, and perhaps healthcare workers may do this in an emergency. And very common is the idea that relatives may benefit. But of course, we're all related, and in small island communities and in Europe, everyone is actually related to every other. So I hope we can focus people on those first two motivations of altruism and that warm glow that people feel. So what's stopping people to donate? Again, we have to understand this, and we can have to recognize that as well as that, those worries, and some people can't donate because of their medical problems, some people are unsure of the benefits, and we take the opportunity to stress the value of blood for all those different groups of patients. And clearly different people may respond to different motivations: sickle cell disease, women in pregnancy, emergencies, cancer patients. We can use all those examples. We have to give people the opportunity to donate, and we found that people actually don't want to travel that far to donate, perhaps only half an hour. We have to give them that opportunity. We have to give them appointments. The experience on session has to be good. We use appointment systems. We don't try not to keep people waiting. We have professional services. People try to be kind and compassionate and address quickly any side effects or concerns that people have. We don't give people financial incentives, but we encourage them to be part of the blood donor community. We give them information. There's a newsletter. We have a very good website. On session, we used to give small drinks, cups of tea and coffee and biscuits, and people used to enjoy that. And we recognize donors both as they give blood, and we recognize exceptional donors. So again, to do all this, you have to really, I think, understand the specific problems locally. I've told you about all the different modalities of publicity and the many ways we can recognize donors by giving small awards. Some of our valuable donors have specific systems and can have priority booking. We have to maximize those opportunities to donate, and again, have good donation sessions with happy donors and very professional and satisfied staff. We have a call center which is actually situated in Northern Ireland that we use to contact our donors to remind them to rebook and to help them rebook. So we have an electronic system for rebooking. We have a system to recognize when donors aren't responding and to call them up. And we may want to target specific groups of donors. So I've said that many donors people respond in different ways to donation, and it is very hard to reach the whole community. We know from our own experience that there's some people who give more readily than others. And I think we have to be realistic and target our campaigns at those people. Healthcare workers know all about the benefits of blood and were very highly motivated, and it obviously helps to have donation available to healthcare workers. Young people are often well motivated, particularly at university, but also understanding the benefits of donation should, I think, form part of people's general education. And although we don't want to take too much blood from young people, we have to be careful that they don't react to donation, but certainly to start people donating early and to encourage them to donate throughout their lives is important. I have to say that women generally come forward more often than men to give blood. I think they're, if I may say so as a man, better motivated to help others. But it's very important then to reach men and to they can give blood more often. They have bigger iron stores, and it's important for them to realize, I think, the value of being donors. Faith groups from every religion, Christian, Islamic, Hindu, and many others, stress the importance of helping others. And we've encouraged donations in churches and mosques. And here's Iman from Newcastle, who's helped his group donate. If people have given blood once successfully, they're very likely to be able to become a donor. And we have a particularly focus on people who've given once, getting them to come back again, and understanding how you can retain donors. And even if they don't come back every few months, if they come back once a year, it's incredibly valuable. So you have to focus a lot of work on donors who've already given blood. Now, in the past, we had lots of when the United Kingdom had big factories, we used to go to them and get donation at workplaces. We've stopped that now, but I think it has been historically very valuable because there's a good sense of community. People used to enjoy giving blood. They would have an hour off work, and the business would get recognition and publicity. I think really there's so many places you could go and donate. And I think we'll have speakers from voluntary groups who are going to speak, and certainly the Rotary Lions Club and many others could help. And getting highly regarded individuals to donate and using them to stress the importance of donation is, I think, very valuable. And that may be from public life, from politics, from business, from sport, from culture, from music, from almost, people who are outstanding in Trinidad and Tobago. If you can encourage them to give blood, they can encourage others. So I won't go through this slide, but Lucy Asamoah did this work in Ghana, and she set out a whole program, how you might set out a program to increase donation. And again, without going through it, it encompasses the sort of things I've said: understanding the problem, developing tools. But I should also emphasize involving donors. We have donors who sit representatives on our donor panels. We have focus groups to test out ideas. We have donors who are on our research groups to help guide the way we think, and we regard this as a very important part of developing and delivering not just services but also research. I think Lucy set out many of the things I've spoken about addressing specific myths and having multimodal ways of reaching donors. And collaborating at the end, she's talked there about collaborating with community-based groups and with academia. I think some of the research I've hinted at is fantastic work to carry on in Trinidad and Tobago. It's relatively straightforward, it's high impact, and it could be extended across the whole of the region. So I hope we'll arrive at this position where you'll be able to have lots of award ceremonies. This slide is from Zimbabwe, where they're giving out some very nice, some simple shields to donors, and people are often very proud of this. It would be wonderful to see these ceremonies roll out across Trinidad and indeed the Caribbean. So how should we do this? Well, one of my favorite sayings when faced with a big task is that of Ernest Hemingway, never be daunted, to be ambitious. And I hope you can do that. But of course, we can look more locally to understand when we should do that. And I hear from Kenneth, one of your sayings is beat the iron while it's hot. So we should get on and do this now. And who should do this? I think the whole community has to do this. It's not something the ministry can do alone, health workers can do alone, academia can do alone, or the community can do alone. It really is something that everyone has to do. And to come together and develop a service, a national service that relying on voluntary non-remunerated donation, where there's an ample supply of blood that will serve people in Trinidad and Tobago. I'm sorry Tobago isn't in just a small part of Tobago is in this picture. I'm sure you'll be able to get lots of help, not just from blood services in the United Kingdom, but also across the global south. I mean, the people who are really trying to address these conversion of family-based systems to voluntary non-remunerated donors are people in West Africa and East Africa, and I'm sure you can have those links. The International Blood Transfusion Society is our own. Will soon be president of the British Blood Transfusion Society and would love to help more. The American Association of Blood Banks and the International Society for Blood Transfusion all have outreach programs and will give help. And then I hope in turn Trinidad and Tobago can help others in the region. Island communities have particular problems, and I'm sure you will become a focus of expertise across the region and be able to share with others your expertise, and they will be able to help you. So it's a wonderful opportunity to develop healthcare work, both publicly, not just locally, but also across the whole region, the Caribbean region. So I'd like to thank you. We must thank our donors. They are the foundation of these modern systems. A special thanks to Dr. Williams for inviting me and my colleagues Imelda Bates, David Allen and Lucia Samoa for providing some slides, and many colleagues across NHS Blood and Transplant who are too numerous to mention. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. We now go on to the part of the program that deals with our featured speaker, who will give us information on the updates on the structure of the National Blood Transfusion Service, the Honorable Minister Terence Diaby. Mr. Terence Diaby is the Second Minister of Health and Member of Parliament for St. Joseph. His tertiary education began with a diploma in pharmacy at the University of the West Indies in Augustine in 1981. Subsequently, he did a postgraduate diploma in international marketing from the Chartered Institute of Marketing, UK, before returning to the University of the West Indies in 2007 to obtain a Bachelor of Science in Pharmacy. In 2013, he qualified for the Bachelor of Laws from the University of London International Program. Terence is a devoted family man and husband too. We now call to the podium the Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Good morning, all. It is good to be here with old friends. I would not identify them. Carol and Vivi will be anonymous. And new colleagues, Dr. Charles, thank you for inviting me and congratulations on this event this morning. And thank you for that expose of the history of transfusion and some of the historical problems that have us where we are to start and clinical expertise in going into give blood often and why, and to Professor Robert from the UK. Is Professor Robert still on? No, yes?
Yes, I'm still here.
Good morning, sir. How are you? Good afternoon.
Thank you.
and to Professor Roberts from the UK, who gave us the UK history and the UK experience. It is an absolute delight for me to be here this morning amongst new friends, old friends, to discuss a very important topic. I am pleased to be here, but that pleasure is diminished in having to speak last after Dr. Charles, after Dr. Starr, and after Professor Roberts. So what do I say at that problem? I always have as a minister. But here goes. In his seminal book, The Gift Relationship, Richard Titmuss did an expose about the difficulties in paying for blood donation. And he posited, and I hope Professor Roberts would have read this book. He seems to be a historian of some. And he posited that paying people to donate blood may actually crowd out donors. And he did a field experiment with 3 groups of people who were given incentives to give blood. Long and short, it did not work. In other words, paying for blood did not work. Fast forward to 2020, 2021 with COVID. Some countries decided to actually pay people to get COVID-19 vaccine. Remember that? Did not work. You may get an initial uptick, but it's not sustainable. What are the lessons we can learn? That out of those 2 experiments, 1970 and 2021, 2022, paying for these types of services is not the answer. As Professor Roberts said, we have to find that altruistic route. We have to find what we call in Trinidad and Tobago, and what I refer to and have been referring to since June 14th, when on that blood donation leave for 2022. We started this program. I said, and I will quote myself, that what we need in Trinidad and Tobago is an army of good. An army of good, 20,000 people strong, 1.5% of the population, to become voluntary, non-remunerated blood donors. I know the figure that Professor Roberts quoted in the UK. We are aiming for 20,000. 20,000 people who will give blood at least twice a year. They do that, we collect 40,000 pints. Currently, we are collecting 18 to 20,000 pints per year if we are lucky. If we are lucky. But we can't depend on luck. We can't depend on hit and miss. We cannot depend on the CHIT system which we have, and I'm glad Dr. Capital was here because his cancer patients need blood. We can't depend on the CHIT system, which is dangerous, which is coercive, which is unpredictable. We must move to a system where as physicians in the emergency room, where as pregnant people needing blood, and I'm glad Dr. Symposium is presented tomorrow, we must have a system where families are not further traumatized by having to find blood. The patient and families are already traumatized. You're a gunshot victim with minutes to live in an emergency room. I have to go and find blood. You're a child. Parents are traumatized. You have to go and find blood. Your pregnant wife is bleeding. Your husband has to go and find blood. Ladies and gentlemen, I put it to you that cannot be the suffering diet that is in 2022. That is why we need this army of good. An army of 20,000 persons on a register to give blood. What have we been doing? When I looked at the figures, I was stunned to find out that over 50% of the people turn up under the old system are deferred. They can't give blood for some reason. One, they went to South America within 6 months. Two, they had a attack in the past year, and for various reasons. And when we looked at how people are screened to give blood, it was a disaster. And Dr. Charles worked with me and we simplified the process. We simplified the process. So the full road we can come down. Then we also look at training, to retrain staff. And then we look at the physical accommodation of the main donation centers. When I walked into the Port of Spain donation system, I was disappointed. I wouldn't go there. It was not a welcoming environment. Because if you are asking people to do good, leave their place of work, give of their time, give of their body, give of their blood, the least you could do is have a welcoming environment. So the Port of Spain Center, renamed after Dr. Baby Charles and rightly so. When you go in there now, you will believe you're in a bank. It's a corporate environment. The North Central Center looks like a spa. The San Fernando Center has been totally revamped, refurbished. It's wonderful. Same thing up in the Stanley Brandy. So training, ease of doing business with us, physical environment, increased testing, increased focus on the HR and the client experience. It has reached the stage now where I'm getting messages stating how pleased people are to be given blood. They can't believe the experience. And we did this in 6 months, from January 2022 to June. But ladies and gentlemen, moving forward, and I'm glad Professor Thomas is here again, to make any intervention, worthwhile intervention in health, based on our colonial experience, and I'm glad Dr. Charles went into colonial experience, because things become ingrained and entrenched in our thinking. And to change that, change management. We know that. So to change things in health, as we change with maternal mortality rates and infant mortality rates, to change things in health, now that we have our major medical equipment of 95% of the time, when I come into office, when I came into office, everything was breaking down every Monday morning. To change things in health, you need 3 stars to align. 3 stars. They must be perfectly aligned. 1, you must have the highest political involvement and leadership. If the minister and the government, by extension, doesn't buy into that program, it will not. And Dr. Charles spoke about why it will not at the time. You must have political involvement. You must have political buy-in. Same thing we are doing with mental health. Same thing we did with maternal health. Same thing we are doing now with NCDs. 2, you must have a clear-cut policy with goals and objectives. So that's why in case of blood, we keep repeating it's an army of good 20,000 persons, 1.5% of the population. You must have an objective which is specific, measurable, achievable, and time. And you want to do this in 3 years. And 3, you must have something. And that would spend all of 2020 talking to the physicians, talking to the hematologists, talking to the lab techs, so that they can buy into the vision, they can buy into the objective that this is what we have to do. The last ingredient in doing all this now is communicating with the public. Because we can do all these wonderful things, but if the public, that 20,000 people we want, aren't communicated with, aren't motivated, don't see what altruism really is. And I cannot depend on Dr. Charles. I cannot depend on myself. So what we'll be doing at the ministry moving forward, Charles became signing off. I loaned Dr. Charles somebody from change management to help him with the underground nuts and bolts. We are going to be changing that. We are going to be setting up a secretariat solely responsible for finding those 20,000 pieces. Because you can have policy. Star 1 to be aligned. Star 2, the ministers involved have that. Star 3, you have all these fancy things underneath. But now we have to build out a structure underneath that, building that, to help us, to help you hematologists like Dr. Sarong, Dr. Kapis here, online. Kavita, how are you doing? Great. To help Kavita at Southwest. To help Dr. Kapali. Find these people. You can't do it alone. City Park of Evaluation was there, and you get people to come and live. But before we do that, we have to build out that communication plan. We have to build out the secretariat to support it. So, ladies and gentlemen, a community of good, 20,000 persons strong. Altruism, that sense of doing something, expecting nothing in return. We can do it. And I pledge support the Trinidad and Tobago Society for Hematology and Transfusion. This is your first symposium, Dr. Charles. Heartiest congratulations. Could we give Dr. Charles heartiest congratulations for spearheading this? And as we move forward, be assured that you have my personal support and that of the ministry as well. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for bearing with me. I thank you for putting up with me for the past 10 minutes, and may God bless each and every one of you.
Thank you, Mr. Diaz. We will now open the floor for anyone who has any questions. Please let us know who you are. Thank you, and you are best. Okay, so. Do you have any questions online? Nothing else? Okay. Dr. Charles, I just start going. With respect to the blood donations in the country, what timeline do you anticipate like we meet this targeted goal, especially now that we have the Prime Minister to achieve that 40,000 units at minimum? So can you give us an idea of how good?
Realistically and physically, it could be done very quickly, mostly because the modalities are now open to us, the social media and so on, because of the resources available. But because inherently we need to disengage certain existing symptoms, we need to take some time around that. So we have to start currently happening. Create. But I'm confident that we may achieve it before.
Thank you very much for your question.
Well, that's what that was kind of charge. most of the areas shaped with dark brown showing high rates of authorization. Didn't has been to Canada and the UK. I saw one very close to us, people in the Caribbean region. Charles for a different time to comment on it. Thank you, Dr. Tapia. I did inquire of Dr. Godet, was past director of the Transfusion Service, and she was very nice. And I get the impression it was just made to it as so I think it just was made it possible and then came with it. You might for a QA, but we got on voluntary, non-remunerated. They, apart from them in the Caribbean, Curacao. The Curacao, which was instituted by the Dutch, who were the Caribbean. The 1930s.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thanks, Dr. Dindia, PhD Hematologist and Cultures. So, Dr. Charles, quick question. It's more for infrastructure. Is there any plan to perhaps have irradiated blood available, more so for the oncology patient, the transfusion associated practice?
Thank you, Dr. Dindia. And all these things are possible. We have to resolve to that. But it should be it's plans the pool of voluntary. One must be ensure that it is because there is a small point in the meeting for that high risk of viral infections. So really, and because we dedicate our energy developing that necessary element, voluntary, non-related blood donors, the first element requirement of blood safety, so a pool of voluntary, non-related blood donors. And I'm sure you want to achieve that. What we have found, if we tackle the dependent things without sorting out the four colors, there is a possibility of a result being extracted, and then one ends up with the impact. But there's something that we will develop, and you will develop it as we develop our reacting.
Measure for backup. I'm a former student at the UWI. My question is for Dr. Charles or Prof, anyone that comes up. As a medical student, I'm sitting here and I'm, well, research that could be done based on what we've spoken about, as well as the different groups that we should be targeting. But as a medical student, how do we as medical students help to push this narrative? How do we get involved? Because I'm writing places that we can reach out to the domains, but how do we get to those places? How do we get you all to those places? What is expected of us as the students coming out in the medical opportunity?
You're very much involved in student research. You understand it, you have to be appreciated. And you see the results of it. And one of the things about research is that getting access to the community, trust to the shared information. So medical students are well positioned to do that. One of the things about blood transfusion research that affects everybody. And if the medical students get involved, dealing with the community. As you know, I don't like to put it, give it back. Give anything in return. I'm describing what we're doing now. Obviously, our sharing was come back to. And this decided what information required. And get it on tabulated as in the paper and that.
Responding to a question that you know from your, that's why we do the research project, where we send out the students to community the research. Besides that, there is a course called, you must have done it, it's called PET, Professionalism, Ethics and Communication in Health, which is very, very critical. And the other aspect the public. So it is not about only medical knowledge you will share and they will convince. It is to be in a empathetic way, a humanistic way, how you convince the public and think out. And it is one of what we call our social responsibility, social accountability. It is one of our requirements for our accreditation also. And that's how we try to integrate those aspects into the curriculum through the school. And that's how we train our students so that when they come for, when they graduate from our program, they are well in a good position, better footing to convince the public or not only the population, other social outreach activities.
We have an online question, potentially for Dr. Charles. Because they came from Mr. Raymond Tilotse, and he wants to know the number of units collected per year on average from 2018 to 2020.
Not a big question, Ray. Off the top of my head, I think 2018 there were about between 20 and 21,000 units. And with the advent of COVID, we collected about 18,000 units per year, 18,600, 18,700. I think this year is going to start the recovery. But there was a decline that occurred globally and it was organizations in voluntary, non-remunerated was sustained. It was amazing that these people have to come in out the village. And it made a difference because they continued. It was a strap tech to be voluntary, non-remunerated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next question, potentially could be answered by Minister Hill. So Marshall says with the students involved, is it possible for the Ministry of Health Promotion to have more of a connection with the University of the West Indies to foster their ideas?
Martha, thank you very much, Martha. And that is asked. Coming to the end of my presentation, I said that we have to set up a secretariat at the ministry, and that is going to be one of the main drivers that the secretariat will now reach out to every single stakeholder, whether it's Raven at COTT. We have already started reaching out to the Chambers of Commerce, the Banking Association, and yes, we have, and the university has always been part of what we are doing. Let me just say, on the Committee Minister of Health, I have gone to them literally on a monthly basis to tell them what we are doing and to ask for their support. So the University of the West Indies is going to play a critical role, not only in research supporting students but in actually implementing the policies and plans. So the Ministry of Health is always open to doing this, but it has to be done by the Secretariat that will now be set up. Thank you very much, Marsha.
Hi, we have a question from the audience, and they would like to have a summary of what's done in your country to ensure that there are always a supply of blood donors.
Sorry, was that question directed at me?
Yes, it was, Professor Roberts.
Yeah, could you just repeat it, please? Sorry.
No problem. We have a person in the audience who would like to know what is done in your country to ensure that there is a consistent, adequate population of non-remunerated blood donors.
Okay, well, there's been a very long tradition. So at least when people give blood, or we ask them to give blood, they expect it to be voluntary, non-remunerated. So we've crossed that bridge a long time ago. We persuade people by a whole variety of means, and I think that was one of the things I was trying to stress. We have a budget for radio and radio campaigns. We use local radio. We use TV adverts occasionally. We have specific marketing campaigns targeted at specific groups and for specific needs. We use social media quite a lot. We have a very active team that promote and publicize the donations that we do. We go out and about. We're very visible. We have, whenever we give blood, there are lots of posters up. We advertise in local press and communities to say we'll be coming. We did used to do quite a lot in universities. We don't have a university specific campaign, but as I indicated, I think universities and hospitals are probably a very good place to donate in or to get donors. So there are a whole variety of avenues open to you. As I've said, the faith groups I think are very useful because they have a lot of people there who are willing to help their communities. So I think you have to look carefully in your communities to see which are the most likely places to give blood and to focus a lot of efforts there. We have, I didn't go into it in detail, but we do need lots of blood from people who are of African descent, so we can give blood to sickle disease. So we work in the communities and in London in particular, where there are lots of people of African descent, both Caribbean and from Africa, and try and work with community groups, with women's groups, with sports teams, with hairdressers, everyone. You do need people on the ground to help promote donation and publicize their success. So it's multimodal. And it's a relatively slow process, but when it works, it will work well. So I hope that helps you.
I think it does. Thank you so much. Thank you for all the persons that have contributed their questions and their suggestions. We now take a short 15-minute break. Please take that opportunity to look at the groups outside and to avail yourself of the live refreshments downstairs. Thank you.